Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WTF podcast, Steel City Underground. My name is Terry Fletcher, and it is week 10 in the NFL. And so we have a lot to talk about. We had an interesting Monday night football game, and I'm going to start there because it's fresh in my mind. And I'm going to shout out at the football gods who apparently just don't like me in fantasy football this week. So I had won in all of my 3 leagues in regulation, and of course we had to go into overtime. The problem is that the kicker for Seattle, I was playing against him, and I had Carson. So I had the running back for Seattle. So if they go for a field goal, I'm in trouble. I was okay if Carson got a touchdown, and then my opponent got the extra point because the point differential I'm in favor of. But unfortunately, no, that's not how it worked. And so in 3 leagues and regulation, and of course, the person I played against in my other league had Clowney and had Bobby Wagner. So 2 defensive guys. Yeah, we actually have defensive people, not just defense, and PPR league. And so unfortunately, yes, I lost in all of them. Collectively, 3 points, 3.2 to be exact. So I'm a little grumpy today, but yeah, what the football. You know, and the thing that really bothers me, and it was interesting to see that they're now investigating, Matthew Stafford was one of my quarterbacks on my fantasy on one of my leagues. And talk about all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, Matthew Stafford isn't playing. That was never on an injury report. You know, I would have picked up somebody else. So I know that's not what they look at, but you never know, since some of the owners are, you know, buying into some of the sports gaming. Makes me wonder exactly what's going on there. But anyway, that was interesting. But on the Monday Night Football overtime, so Seattle 49ers, Seattle's coming in, and they're 6-2. They look great. Everybody's talking about Russell Wilson MVP. Then we've got the undefeated San Francisco 49ers at 8-0, and everybody's just like, okay, you know, they're perfect, which we know that's not true. The Patriots already lost, so we're just thinking, okay, this could be a game for them where, and especially in their division, they're going to see definitely some issues there. And you know that Richard Sherman coming in there now, he used to be Seattle, now he's 49ers, and he's from that area in San Francisco. He's definitely going to want a little bit of a revenge game there. But we get to the coin flip, and I'm going to shout out Jerome Bettis on this because I'm sure he can relate. So the coin flip, first of all, you know, it always lets the visiting team choose to what the heads or tails. And Seattle was visiting, and they were in San Francisco. The backup quarterback, Geno Smith, was the one calling it. Actually, Richard Sherman was the one standing by for the other team. And he said heads, and all of a sudden I hear the referee say, tails, tails it is, and it was tails. And I'm like, wait, he said heads. And my daughter and I, we rewound the soundbite. We played it 5 times, and we could hear clearly that Smith said heads. And so I'm like, wait a minute. And you know he's not going to correct the official because now the first team with a touchdown or a safety wins, and he wants the ball. So I was just like, the officials again screwed a team. Now, you don't know if it would have made any difference with the outcome, but especially since there wasn't a touchdown for the win, but you don't know how they would have played it differently. And I just think there has to be something to safeguard that. Maybe give them a piece of paper or something and hand it to the official that says heads or tails. I mean, this is getting really ridiculous, and you can't hear at a lot of stadiums. So I just thought that was an interesting WTF unfair moment. And when they go back and play that, they will see that they absolutely screwed up on that one. So that was just not cool. But the one thing that was also kind of unfortunate was the overtime win by the Seahawks. Field goal after the 49ers, Chase McLaughlin, their rookie, he shanked a field goal. It said it almost hit somebody in the tunnel. So talk about a what the football moment. But throughout the game, you sit there and you hear Booger McFarland on ESPN. I'm sorry, but He just drives me insane, and he drives the other players insane too. You should see them on Twitter and social media or see what they're saying. They're all like, I wonder what he's going to say today. So even Ramon Foster, said that on social media last night. And you just wonder, you never know what's going to come out of his mouth because he's just so unfiltered and he says things that are just inaccurate sometimes. But they're all talking about, Russell Wilson as the MVP until he threw that interception to give the 49ers the ball back with just, what was it, a minute left in the regulation. And so basically then they stopped talking about it. Well, he does this, he does that. And then of course, after they win the game, he's back in the discussion. I think the NFL media is the biggest bunch of flip-floppers that are out there. I mean, let's think about Tomlin discussion. How many times are they all saying, oh, Tomlin doesn't need to know what he's doing? I'm not just talking about certain yinsers, you know who you are. But the media does it too and talks about, oh, maybe he'll go to Washington or maybe this or that. And this year, they've actually started talking about him as coach of the year, taking an 0-3 team. Ben goes out. He's got a backup, then the backup to the backup, and then back to the backup, and also being able to get a safety extraordinaire from Miami, and just what he's done. And now we're sitting pretty at 5-4 and actually in the playoff hunt. So at number 6 in the wild card. So in the AFC. So it just is interesting how they're so flip-flopping, and it's just like, stick to the narrative, stop flip-flopping, own what you're saying. But we don't always see that. So let's get to some of the other WTFs, and I've got to talk about the Browns game. I have a physician friend of mine who is also a client, and he lives in Cleveland, and he is a huge Browns fan. And I feel bad because his emojis that he sends to me a lot of the times have to do with crying face. And so, sorry, Jeff, but I was just like looking at this game and I'm thinking Freddie Kitchens is over his head. First of all, Brown's trying to go for it 3 times on 4th down before the half. I mean, just kick the field goal and get some points. Kitchens shovel pass. And they were even saying, so Cleveland Browns had 8 attempts at first downs, 8 attempts to get in from the 1 yard line, and they end up getting a field goal later on. But it's just like 8 attempts and you can't get it in for a touchdown. So that was just crazy. But they ended up winning it, and I didn't realize they won. I actually had changed the channel because I was watching Red Zone at the time, and I changed the channel and I was like, they didn't win. They were down. And then I get a text from my friend who says, hey, at least we won. And I said, what, the football? You won? Yeah, 1916, because they ended up winning on a blown handoff call returned for a touchdown by the other team. It got called back, and then they ended up kicking a field goal. So, yeah, WTF on that one all the way. Now, and then you talk about the Ravens, they're just blowing teams out. I mean, 49-13 versus the Bengals. It was an ugly game. Remember, they've got a backup quarterback in now, Lindley, on the Bengals side. And you just know Dalton sitting there going, see, it wasn't just me. But if you go back and just look at that game, there is actually a kind of a cool thing that happened. Lamar Jackson, he has some rushing touchdowns this year because that kid can move. He has a spin move that's insane, and it's been a big meme now, so you have to go take a look at that. Moving on to the Kansas City game. Okay. So I don't think there was more of a what the football moment than the Kansas City game. And you just look at Andy Reid sometimes and go, are you calling the plays, or do you have an OC that's basically doesn't know what he's doing? So Kansas City loses 32-27 to Tennessee. But first of all, you've got a wide receiver, Hardman, and he fields a ball on a punt on the 1 yard line. Why are you fielding it on the 1 yard line? Let it just go into the end zone. You get a bounce at all, and you're out to the 20 or the 25, depending on punt or kickoff. When you see that, you just sit there and think, okay, did nobody talk to him? And then in the 4th quarter, there was a fake punt by Kansas City with a minute 27 seconds left. It was muffed, and so the punter had to basically throw the ball. It was intentional grounding. So it gave Tennessee the ball back at the 30-yard line with no timeouts, and they end up winning the game. And you just sit there and think, wow, what are they thinking? Now, in that game, I looked up at the 11:30 mark around with 4th quarter. 9 penalties per team, so 18 penalties, 190 yards worth of penalties. I don't care who your quarterback is, Mahomes, whoever. It's really hard to win a game with that many yards of penalties. So they've got some things they've got to fix. It was Mahomes' first game back, and yes, he's fun to watch, but that was not a fun game to watch. That was a head scratcher for sure, and it had WTF all over it. Coming back to the team that, it's funny because you sit there and you think certain teams kind of get a little bit big for their britches, and you want to say to them, hey guys, you're not perfect, and you've heard them called trap games where you're on a roll. The Saints were going in 7-1. The Falcons came in. They've only won one game. They came into a game and they were 1-6. They went to New Orleans and ended up beating the Saints 26-9. And you just sit there and think, and now the Saints are now 7-2, but nobody is infallible. Look at last night. No matter what, it was a hard-fought game. That was probably one of the best Monday Night Football games I've seen in a while. And I'm in California, so it lasted till 10 after 9 at night, which is late for us because it starts at 5:20. But I can't even imagine people on the East Coast staying up to watch that. But you do have some teams now that are 2 games, and they're pretty excited. Bringing us to the Dolphins. The Dolphins have won 2 weeks in a row. They won 16-12 over the Colts. And they gave their coach a Gatorade bath 2 weeks in a row. People, you shouldn't be that excited about that. So 1 week is fine. You win your first game, but the second week in a row, I think the coach probably needs to say something because now it's just silly. Now you guys just look like you're playing Pop Warner 8th grade football. So just reel it back just a little bit. That's just a little bit much, but good for them. But you got to wonder and think about this for a second. For those of you that comment on our podcast on the comments fields, what do you want to do if you're a team? Now, I'm not saying you throw a football game. Absolutely not. I don't like that. I think it's all about competition. And obviously you want to keep fighting if you're, a football player, putting your body through a lot. But you start winning games that don't matter. So the Dolphins were sure to get the number 1 pick, but now you've got Dolphins with 2. You've got Atlanta with 2 wins. Teams are coming back and winning games now where everybody thought they were just kind of out and going to be, in the draft, going to have all these number 1 picks. And it's going to be a pretty much open field out there. Look at the Jets. They're coming back and winning too. So you've definitely got some things to think about. It'll be interesting to see what all happens with that. So let's get to the Steelers. Oh my goodness. Well, the game did not start out the way we wanted it to, did it? We started with a fumble from a high snap by Pouncey, went over the top of Rudolph's heads and was recovered by the Rams for a touchdown. And then we had to punt on the second series, and I'm just like, WTF, when is this, madness going to end? And I understand that, some quarterbacks, especially backups, take a little time to get in their groove and figure out what's going on within the game. And I'm going to shout out a couple of my compadres with Steel City Underground. Some of them had said this is one of Rudolph's better game, and I guess statistically it might have been, but just watching it, to me, I still wasn't that excited about it. It was a defensive game, and the defense is who's keeping us. They're really the ones keeping us even afloat in this game. Rudolph holds on to the ball too long. And I know they've always said that about Ben, but Ben scrambles. He scrambles left, then scrambles right. I mean, I could do the sound bites from NFL films perfectly. Rudolph stands there. He just stands there. I haven't seen him run ahead. He's looking around, doing his checkdowns and everything. But 5 seconds, 6 seconds, you're going to get clobbered. And so somebody's got to tell him, throw the ball or do something with it to get out of there. But speaking of the defense, Minka Fitzpatrick. Another fumble recovery for a touchdown, an interception to end the game. This guy is on a tear, as Mike Tomlin would put it in his post-presser. 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns in 5 games. This guy is, talk about a spark plug. It is crazy what he has done, and thank God we have him. Not only do I think he should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, but Pro Bowl just came out for voting. You need to put him in the Pro Bowl. Guys, let's get him in the Pro Bowl. Joe Hayden, he had an interception, and best game of the season for Joe. I think actually Minka makes him better. And Bud Dupree's killing it. Cam Hayward, I've got to shout him out. And all these guys, it's absolutely positive WTF football, because talk about disrupting passes. Cam is everywhere, getting that hand up, making sure that pass is tipped. I mean, it is crazy. Now, did we have too many holding penalties by the refs? Yes. And some of them are not even needed. You hear the media and the announcers just going, I don't see that. I don't see that. Just let them play football. Now, if they're grabbing the jersey and turning the player around, or grabbing them around the body, or choking them and basically accosting them at the line of scrimmage, absolutely, that's holding. But when you see just a little push or a little push to the side, that is not holding. So, gosh, refs, I hope you're listening too. You really got to let them play football. It's a little bit crazy right now. But the fake punt by the Rams ended up with an interception by us, and that was us, meaning Pittsburgh, of course. I always say that, and Joe says, don't say we are us. You're not on the team. I think he missed my shoulder pads the other day. I am on the team. But I'm just talking about we as the Pittsburgh Steelers, and yes, I'm a fan. I'm a writer, and I'm a podcaster for them, and I like to collectively just they consider them my team. But the fake punt really helped us out there. Now, what is concerning to me is that safety. Now, it was interesting because I'm thinking, why aren't we at least running the ball to give the quarterback a little bit of room to work with? But then they called a play action pass. Why are we doing that? He holds on to the ball. And luckily, it was fallen on, because if it wasn't, that would have been a touchdown by the other team, but we ended up having to take a safety. But that's 2 safeties in 2 consecutive games, and we can't be giving up points like that. Look at our score. Our scores are so tight, so tight. I mean, we did win, and we've won 4 in a row, and we're talking 17-12, but we have to be, the coaches just have to be really careful with that, because I don't know about you, but I hold my breath every game thinking it's only a 1-score game. And so hopefully they're going to be able to, on this short week, fix some things, but I'm not sure. Remember the 4 wins in a row? They're all been at home. So now we go on the road in Cleveland. We're on short rest. We're, Thursday night football. I love Thursday night football. I know the players hate it, but I love that it doesn't end, especially when it's our team. Some Thursday night football games are terrible, but this one is going to be hopefully a real good one. But again, short rest, and they've got some playmakers in Cleveland. I'm not saying that they've been doing a great job, but it does concern me a little bit now that they've kind of won a couple of games and they're getting pretty excited at 3-6. Now the Steelers, yes, we're at 5-4, so we're on top of our game right now. But who physically on both teams is going to be able to go out and pull out a win here? They've got Chubb. They've got Kareem Hunt. Remember that guy? Yeah, former Kansas City. Now domestic violence. Now he's with the Browns. I when I heard his name when I was watching the Red Zone and I saw that come up, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. He's off suspension and back in the league. That's a problem. OBJ, we've got Landry. They've got some playmakers. And let's not forget defensive end Myles Garrett. He's going to come into this game with 10 sacks. And with our quarterback that likes to sit in the pocket, he's going to test our offensive line. So we don't know if we've got Ramon Foster back out of concussion protocol. We don't know what we're doing there. I know there's been some kind of movement within the offensive line, even though they're doing a great job. We are going to need another defensive game, and we are going to need at least 1 score, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very, very close. So let's hope for Thursday night football. We have some positive WTF moments, and everybody, set your fantasy lineups. Get ready for Thursday night football. It should be a nail biter and hopefully a great game. So everyone, make it a great week. Make it a great day. And thank you for listening to the Steel City Underground WTF podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.